a part of a longer series that is covering my thoughts on grief and parts of my grief journey and the things that have happened over the years and things that I've observed and just all the things that come along with having experienced pretty massive loss and lots of life things happening all at once. So today's topic, and specifically within the grief realm, is grief and kids. So, this is not about losing children. This is not about children dying. Um, and just, I wanted to put that out there as the disclaimer from the beginning. It's truly about grief and our children and how things happen for everyone, what that does for people, and how kids are able to, um, what's the word I'm looking for? Um, Deal with, work through, and talk about their own grief. And then what happens to us as me specifically, what happens to me when I get asked a question about my dad, when one of my kids asked about their grandfather, and it's, I've said this a couple times over the last couple series, but when you get smacked in the head with something and you weren't expecting to have this conversation about this person, in the middle of a Tuesday randomly, in September or whatever the case may be. So because kids, they're thinking about lots of things just like we're thinking about lots of things, and they're thinking about their rabbit holes are they're so much fun to dive into and to see where different things triggered them and what made them ask this question. And I really enjoy following up with my kids and finding out, well, what made you ask that? Like, can we backtrack? Some of it is so that I know why they asked the question, and maybe I can avoid that topic again, because I'm not always in a good place where I want to have conversations about dead people. It's just not always, granted, that's something I do a lot is talk about grief and talk about, people being gone and things. So, back to this idea of kids and grief. So, kids are pretty astounding when it comes to loss all on their own. We put our dog down in May, and when we told the kids that we were going to put the dog down, it obviously they were sad, first and foremost, and then their next thought was for Titus. They wanted to know if he was going to be, if it was going to hurt, what it was going to be like for him. And then the questions after that were, well, how are we going to celebrate him? How are we going to commemorate his life? How are we going to remember him as a family? And it was really neat for me, and I know for my husband, to watch our kids be able to have a pretty self-aware conversation about what they needed for closure with Titus passing away. And I was able to ask them, what do you think you need? And if everyone talked about a little piece here and there, and I was able to say, hey, what are you hoping to get out of that? Like, what is that going to do for you? Let's explore maybe what it could look like. If this other thing is what you're looking for, then maybe we can try something different. And as it sits right now, he is cremated. We went ahead and did the designated, like it's just him in the box. And we did get his ashes back. They're his real ashes. We did toy around with the idea of not getting his real ashes back. But that's what we ended up doing. So it's in a really pretty carved wood box at the end of our hallway, which is where he hung out. That was his place to sleep because he could sleep between each. It was like a common area for him between all three bedrooms, and he could see everyone. So that's where he spent a lot of his time, was the top of the stairs and the back of the hallway. And so the box of his ashes is on a little table. And then there's a set of 4 photographs that I got printed by Mix Tiles. Thank you, Mix Tiles. This is not sponsored by Mix Tiles, but if you're looking for a way to get photographs printed really quickly and fast and be able to just stick them up on your wall, it was a really great solution for what I needed. And they did a great job. So that is our little memorial for Titus right now. And yeah, it was just really, the kids in grief, they have this way of tapping right into that nerve of that thing we really didn't want to talk about, or that thing that really makes us sad, or the thing that made us, in some cases that maybe we're angry about a loss that happened. And those kids, man, they zoom right on in and they go, yeah, let's talk about that. I want to know about that today. So just recognize that their brains are working at a totally different level than ours are. And they may not be aware that it is something that they quote unquote shouldn't be asking about, or they quote unquote, it's rude or impolite. They don't have those boundaries and those expectations and those things that we have where we're like afraid to ask a person, which in a lot of ways is really, really cool. Watching them interact with people is it's really, really neat, and kids on every level, not just my kids. But give them that space to do it. And I will definitely have moments where I'm like, don't ask that, don't say that. We don't need to do that right now. But I am trying so hard to give them space to be able to ask the questions. And, because I, tell people all day long, ask the questions you want to ask. And, it's important to be aware of people's emotions and be aware of where they are and give them space. But on the same side of it, it's not asking is ignoring that anything happened. And kids have a way of, they don't care. If they want to know, if they're curious, they're going to ask. Which I think is great. So I try to foster that as much as I can. So that's kind of what I was thinking about with kids in grief. Just giving them space to ask the questions, and when they do, they're asking it out of curiosity and love. They're probably trying to learn something, they're trying to process something, they're trying to understand what's going on around them, they're trying to understand why you're upset, they're trying to understand why their friends are upset, and they're really just trying to understand their world. So remember that before you freak out, before you flip out, and acknowledge that, hey, this is something that they're trying to process, I'm trying to process, and recognizing that the kids, they understand grief in their own way, and they know it hurts, and they don't know what to do with those emotions either. So just remember that they're there too, they're feeling it too. And yeah, so that's that for now. And I hope you have a wonderful evening and a wonderful rest of the week. Yeah. Okay. So I will see you on the next episode. And in the meantime, happy writing.